Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm looking out my window and it's light outside, which is really nice because
Woo-hoo.
it wasn't. But we are here again for another episode of Madison and Mountain View. And today we're going to talk about the Apple Watch launch that happened yesterday and kind of get everybody's feedback of what they think and are they going to purchase it, and just kind of get the ball rolling with that. So for me, I'm excited about it, but still a little skeptical. I don't know if the behavior change of starting to charge your watch is going to actually happen. And I don't know, too, if you saw the other launch of kind of like the new MacBook, only has one port, so you can now only charge one device. So we're kind of all used to like charging your computer and charging your iPhone and charging, fuel bands and all that at one time. And now you can't. Well, the next versions of, the computers won't be able to. So I don't know, Gina, what do you think?
I mean, I was an early adopter, if I do say so myself, of the Pebble. But as you will see, I do not have my Pebble on today, and it was for exactly that reason. I started charging it at night and then not remembering, or only having enough plugs in my room to decide between my Pebble or my Jawbone or my watch, or so then maybe I wouldn't plug it in, and then once it was dead I had to leave in the morning, so I couldn't wait for it to charge. So it was a super hassle in terms of an accessory having to charge it. Now, with that said, I think if people become more dependent on it and see true value in it, and it becomes as integral to their day-to-day as their phone, who would have thought we would be charging the phone every night? And for some people, depending on what phone you have to charge it more than, not just overnight. You have to give it a charge if you use it constantly in the middle of the day. And people are doing it. So I think it'll come down to how indispensable and how compelling they actually make it. I think having, from what I've heard, oh yeah.
Well, I was just thinking, like, is there a specific value, though, of the watch that is so much more unique than just simply reaching in your pocket and getting a phone, that it changes how people, that it changes how people use that? Because like that for me is still the big thing. It's like, all right, well, what sort of difference or vast superiority does this offer over the other device that we always have on us?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely convenience. I did, when I do use my Pebble, receiving kind of the text, it is just a user behavior that, is easier than having to kind of, and it doesn't feel like it's that much easier, but when you start to do it, I think we always say, can you believe we used to, get up and change the channel on the TV, and now we've got these remotes. So I think it reads as if it's an incremental and nominal change, but I think not having to pull something out and having it just naturally live on you. I mean, things like, iPay on there, and it's not perfect yet because it doesn't immediately recognize when you go to swipe it. You have to kind of go into iPay on the watch, but it still is a step where you're not having to kind of go and open and scan, and it's just right there.
So from the fitness tracking standpoint, most trackers now you have to wear either on your wrist or, you wear a heart rate monitor, something. It has to be on your person at all times in order for it to be even remotely accurate. Now, I mean, mind you, the ones that are out right now, aside from just a good old heart rate monitor, aren't even that accurate because, again, I kind of talk about this as a lifter, where if you're lifting and you're squatting tons of weight, it's that my fuel band used to tell me that I had 5 points, but it's like that's not possible because I'm dying and
that's 300.
Right, like, but the reality is that, when it's based off of an accelerometer, if you're not making this motion in any capacity and running or doing that kind of thing, it's not picking it up. So this, with having it be a watch, it's close to your wrist, it's going to be close to your pulse. I don't know. I would have to understand how accurate the heart rate monitor is. But yes, in terms of like the fitness tracking stuff, it makes sense to have it, and the apps and all of that. I think also too, just I was reading a couple articles, and Gina, you're a biker, so it probably makes more sense for you to answer this. But from a safety standpoint, to be able to kind of like talk to yourself almost versus having to like take your phone out and like start texting while you're either driving or biking or anything like that. That might be kind of a perk of it. But still, does that outweigh all of the other things that you have to deal with in order to?
Yeah, and I think we've heard from quite a few different startups who are playing in the interface technology sector that their mission is to stop people from looking down. And, living in New York, I think we all see it every day. And I've almost run into a ton of people on my bike. I've almost fallen off my own bike when I've been stupid enough to kind of pull out my phone and try to take a look at my directions or something like that. So I am pro any kind of natural user interface that is trying to make a jump and a leap from pulling people away from looking down to looking up. But with that said, my kind of overall view of this watch, and this is going maybe 5 years out, is that it's just a stepping stone. That aggregating everything into my wrist isn't actually the most natural or where I want things to be or where they will be eventually. And what I mean by that is I believe that more natural user interfaces will become part of the surfaces that matter, that are more related to the software that we want to use. And what I mean by that is I don't necessarily want my remote control on my wrist with me all day, but I probably wouldn't mind if it were built into my couch or just built into the TV and I used kind of the natural gesture. When I am, cooking, I don't necessarily want a recipe on my wrist when I'm trying to cook with my hands, but I wouldn't mind if my cooking board had a natural screen in it where I was able to view. So I think, in fitness, I'd rather my shoes have those trackers, or my mirror, or where I want to think and, think about my fitness. I don't necessarily need it on me all the time. So I think they've packed everything into this watch. When in the future, as we start building smart furniture and smart environments around us, they will naturally be embedded with the software that's most related to when you would want to engage with that specific topic. So I think the watch is cool. It's really expensive. The lowest model was, I think, $350. So definitely a bit of a barrier to entry for a nice to have. And I think, honestly, it's just going to be a stepping stone, and it's never going to reach mass because the natural user interfaces built into the environment around us are going to take its place.
Yeah. I'd also like to hear, too, I mean, I was reading, like, I think the high end of it is a gold one, and it's like 10 grand or something. Like, what does Rolex think? Because the reality is, Rolex, whatever high-end watch that isn't technology based now, do you think they're going to start to delve into it? I don't think so. I think that they'll stay kind of the analog version of it. But I wonder what they think of, it's almost like taking the beauty away of what used to be, the timepiece and something that was, a status symbol and all that. And now this is kind of a symbol, but, again, it's techie. It looks techie too. It's sleek, but it's still like it's not a timepiece.
Yeah, I don't think Rolex will get into the game with their existing products, but I do think they should, have a spin-off and at least be playing, at least have some skin in the game. Because while I agree with you, I think it is a piece of art, and it's an accessory and it's fashion, the Rolex watch, and it's not meant to do all of the things that the iWatch is going to do. That, unfortunately, is more appealing to an older generation. And if you're thinking about how you keep your business alive over the next several generations, like a business like Rolex, then you've got to be appealing to the digital natives who grew up with a watch that does imagine a kid being like, your watch only tells you the time.
Yeah.
It's broken. I mean, we see little kids, babies. I saw the other day a baby swiping a photograph, and he didn't understand why it didn't go to the next picture. It was a picture in a frame. So
But
when
at the same time, like the like luxury element that they seem to be shifting towards, right, with this insane price point, that's something that people, when you talk about a Rolex, yeah, that's something that people are paying. People are paying for generations, right, of sort of the prestige that comes along with that, knowing that, oh, well, this is going to be handed down again and again and again, which is sort of the antithesis, really, of the way that we think about technology and how, everything that comes out from a technological perspective is obsolete within 3 to 5 years, and that's being generous. So it's like, you know, how do they justify 10 grand for a watch that's effectively useless in a couple of years?
I think because there's just enough, people out there who will just probably throw the money down just so they could have it. But you know what? They're going to get the next cool thing when it comes out. I think it's a transient show-off piece. Not actually anyone who cares about the technology. If you're actually going to lay down that kind of dough on that ridiculous watch. Sorry for anyone who placed their pre-orders. But in a couple minutes we have left, because this is Madison Avenue meets Mountain View. What do you guys think the brand opportunities are? I know, they opened the SDK for developing apps for the watch quite a while ago, so we know that there's a lot probably underway, and when it launches, it should have an okay library. For brands, I think, there's the low-hanging fruit, which would be things like travel, or maybe even the communications companies, so the WhatsApps and the Kicks and the kind of existing companies that are focused on messaging and communication. Obviously directions and what's nearby when you're traveling, I think that's kind of a low-hanging fruit. Personally, I would love to see a business brand like a LinkedIn or a Cranes or somebody use it to be able to tell me who somebody is when they walk up. Maybe I have to give it a quick cue. Maybe I can just flash it. Has a little camera. But if there was something on my wrist that could remind me, because I'm terrible with names and faces, who somebody is, or give me that quick information on someone or a meeting, that would be awesome. And I would be, I would think a lot of the brand that came up with something like that.
I agree. I think also too, I guess it's really no different from the phone, but still, brands and like loyalty and as beacons start to, kind of take over for me to be able to walk through and let's even just say Chobani, right? So like you walk into the Chobani yogurt store and they know that you're a good customer, so you get a free topping that day or something because you've been a couple of times that week. For brands to really, really start honing in on their loyalty and rewards programs, I think would be great. And even to not even just like CPG brands, but hotel brands.
Yeah.
So think of our CEO, Joe, always goes to Starwood, so it's like they should know immediately, probably as he's pulling up in the cab, that like Joe Daffy is here, So
Yeah.
If there's a way to use that from the tech standpoint, that would be really, really helpful.
Yeah, and I think right now it sounds like most of the functionality is you need to have your phone within, it's got to be synced and linked to your phone. Is that right? So I think that's a big barrier too, and for the watch to, because your phone can do that now and you get the passes on your passbook, and I think they'll need to kind of break away from that a little bit. And sure, you can say, well, my phone's always in my pocket, but then what do you really need the watch for?
Yeah.
So I'd like to see what kind of unique loyalty and awareness and proximity the watch can come up with on its own without having to be tethered to the phone.
Yeah. Well, also from the fitness standpoint too, another thing is if they see that you're, if I doubt it can actually do this, but at some point I'm sure, you'll be able to have some kind of connection into like your blood sugar and, your heartbeat and whatever. So if if it senses that you're getting tired, and then Starbucks can be like, oh, it's time for Starbucks, or if it senses that you need, your blood sugar's running low, and so you need some kind of like pick me up, that would be smart, because it's taking quantified self into another state where you're using that data to actually find the solution and do something with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, I mean, I'm ready for the iTongue, where it's just like they embed something in my tongue, and then every time I put like 10 cookies in my mouth, it just says like, stop eating all those cookies. Cool. Well, it'll be interesting to see who purchases the watch. I'm sure, I guess they just missed South by, where Evolution will be heading this weekend, but it would have been fun to kind of probably see a lot of them floating around. There'll probably be some early models floating around South by. So if I get a chance to test one out, I'll take some video and share it back here in the next week.
Awesome. So. Sounds great. And we'll be back next week as well with another awesome topic.
Cool. Bye.